A very warm welcome here at the Global Organizational Change Conference, hosted by the Futocracy Network, also known as the Change Management Network. My name is Hannelie Venucia, and I'm delighted to be here with you to explore a topic that's very close to my heart, that we've been spending on a body of wisdom developing, and it has been evolving over the last 3 decades in many different facets. And I'll be sharing something about our journey at the end, so you can get a little bit more context for the research that has been done, but also how it evolved over the last 3 decades to what it is today. And it's actually a co-creation. So sit back and relax as we explore our thread together, which is called Setting the Tone by Harnessing Our Leadership Intelligence. And we're doing that so that we can create a solid foundation and a new way of thinking, relating, and creating and working together for this new era, human-centric organization that is busy emerging. So sit back and relax. And I'd like to invite you to come with me on a journey and just to stay open. That's the invitation. With an open mind and an open heart and curiosity of what is possible. And also, when we get stuck along the way, especially when we go into the experimentational part, to ask open questions like, what else is possible? Or to engage quantum thinking, that's paradoxical thinking. So turn things on its head. If you get stuck with a perspective or a concept, jump to the opposite and explore that. See what is possible there for yourself. And likewise, invite in the ridiculous, the strange, the not so familiar, the uncommon, because it will also help us to expand our perception a little bit and to look at something that's very known to us from different vantage points. And it's always very useful for us if we are curious about contributing to something that's busy emerging, something new, and how to make that leap to that new without much disruption and still create a sense of stability and coherence within our teams, within our organizations, within our communities. So for now, when we are going on a journey together, it's always good to orientate ourselves. Where are we right now? So I'd like to invite you just to take a moment to become aware of this organization that's actually sitting here. We are an organization of trillions of cells and billions of neurons and systems and organs and functions and tendons and ligaments and bones and muscles and the likes. Lots and lots of them. And they work together, they organize themselves in an incredible, harmonious, synchronistic way if we are healthy, in a balanced way. Now, just imagine that. So we're sitting here as we are entering this journey together to explore this topic, which is a learning journey together, by the way. We are the manifestation of an organization. And we will also discover later that we have access to more than 42 intelligences and at least 37 senses. We might not use them, they're latent. So it's not that it's not there. It's like a muscle. It becomes weak when it's not used, but we can activate it and we can exercise it and we can stimulate it. And today our focus is really on stimulating our leadership intelligence in maybe a very uncommon and unconventional way. But here we are sitting. Isn't that incredible? This organization of all these cells and neurons and the likes. And each of them have a very unique function. They don't fight each other, they don't compete. But in the whole, they work together in perfect harmony if we are healthy. So the condition must be perfect for this to happen, the environment in which this is taking place. So just orientate your organization for a moment, especially if we're going to embark on a journey together, on a discovery journey and learning journey. Just the space around you. I'm looking and I'm seeing the sun. It's a very bright, warm day. And behind me, there are lots of things growing. There's a vegetable garden. And it's really wonderful to see vegetables grow from a seed towards the actual vegetable and flowers and the likes and a clear blue sky. We want that type of clarity when we are exploring what is possible, that we can set the tone for this new decade coming, but also for this new era, emerging organization that is human-centric. And it starts with us, this human-centric organism right here. Just notice how you feel about everything around you, your relation to them, because when we organize ourselves, no matter whether it's in a formal or informal way, we relate to everything and everyone around us. Just notice how you relate to all the items. It might be animals with your pets, other humans. Just notice how you relate to them and relax. Just also feel the seat beneath your bums. Like, where are you sitting on? How does that feel to be supported like that in this moment? And this beautiful organism is supported by the earth. When we walk, when we sit, doesn't matter how we move and what we think and what we do, we are supported by this planet that we call the earth. Just notice that for a while. And then I'd like to invite you to just take a moment for some self-appreciation. Now, when we are curious and are passionate and involved in any kind of transformation, change, or leadership, doesn't matter what we call it, in everyday life, we seldom have time to really take time for self-appreciation, some gratitude. Because there's so much distractions, there's so many calls for our attention, there are so many expectations that we have to fulfill. There's so many things that we have to take care of. We still have to have vision to lead people somewhere and to inspire them, to create a sense of stability and coherence. It's just so much asked from us. So just a moment of self-appreciation for being here, for being curious about this topic, and for showing up in this way, and the willingness to engage, to experiment, and to look at things maybe from a different vantage point. Just some self-appreciation. And from that space, we can then enter into our exploration together. Having known that we have this living organism that's sitting right here, that actually has a power. If we think of leadership, we automatically think of power and authority, right? This organism has an incredible power, the most powerful, important power there is in life, the power of life itself, through our breathing. And when we breathe consciously, firstly, we slow down our nervous system, which is very good for our personal health. And likewise, especially when in stressful environments, and likewise, it creates automatically and spontaneously a bridge between our left and right brain hemispheres so that we can access it without even thinking about it. So just become aware of our breath and this power of being alive, the joy of living, no matter our circumstances. Because it's something where no functions or roles or labels define us, because it's available to all of us, otherwise we're not alive. It's a gift from life itself and nature. And we are nature. We are not separate from it. So this power, intense power that we have to be here, to be aware, to be awake, be present to the specific moment and whatever wants to unfold from here. So we can tap into that anytime, no matter what's happening around us. And we're going to play with power a little bit later in a few different ways. That's maybe unusual, but we're going to look at its connection to our leadership intelligence and our indicators and the emerging patterns and the maps that give us some guidance along the way. So for now, I'm going to start to share my screen with you. And another welcome here at our exploration together of setting the tone. And when I'm thinking of setting the tone, I'm always thinking of music. And if we look back at history, especially in the 19th and 20th century, music changed when things happened, new things happened in the world. Or also things that really impacted humanity's path and their future. For example, after the First and Second World Wars, the type of music that emerged. In the 1960s, the type of music that emerged. And just imagine, we're trying to dance the cha-cha on country music, or we want to do the waltz on reggae. It just doesn't work, right? So there's a new dance busy evolving, but also a new melody in terms of setting the tone together. And it's harmonized, like in an orchestra, there's all these different components and they work together in perfect harmony to create these incredible melodies. And we're going to explore this dance that we now have to do, this new music that's busy emerging through the filter and lens of our leadership intelligence. You see, what can it possibly be? And we're going to co-create it together. It's not something we do on our own. We also have to look at the bigger picture, a full spectrum view, like an eagle, so to speak, to be able to do that, not just here right now in front of us, but everything it forever impacts and influences around ourselves. We live in a very interesting world these days where influencers have more followers than leaders. So it really does call for us to really explore leadership in the way we saw it and how we used it in a new, different way. Because obviously something is no longer working, it's no longer relevant. And we really have to explore new ways of looking at that and how we can use that then to really assist for this emergence of this new type of organization that's emerging in the formal world, but it has been happening in the informal world for a very long time, in the entrepreneurial world, so to speak, for a very, very long time already. And we can learn a lot from that too, which we will be exploring a little bit later. So welcome. Now, I'm always stunned when I see this visual. I shared this visual the first time almost a decade ago with a group of executive assistants and personal assistants on how to better support their leaders, but also that their leaders, that they can understand their role because they play a massive role. And they're all horrified when they see this because for them it's true, this is what their bosses at the time were like, and they were horrified by it, that they could see it now represented in this way. So I'd just like to invite you for a moment just to tune into that. What would it feel like to be one of those people at the bottom? And this guy jumping over them. What would that feel like? And it also reminds me on quite the opposite. So I'm doing some paradoxical thinking now. Many, many years, more than 2.5 decades ago, I became aware of a CEO in South Africa who was the CEO of a big manufacturing company in the automotive industry. And at the time he was called in to save the organization because they had to close factories down, they had to let people go, they had to restructure, do all sorts of things, which was not a nice thing to do. But he turned that company around in such a way that was still flabbergasting to think about it. And then he did something else. The people loved him. They were so loyal to him. Why? Because every day, wherever he found himself, whichever factory it was or office, he would walk around and greet everybody and have a discussion with every single person. That was the main focus for that day. And people knew him and he knew them. They had a personal, deep, connected relationship. He knew what was going on in their private lives if they wished to share that. And they knew about him. They knew about his limitations, about his vulnerabilities, and likewise. And it was not a bad thing. And he was going around talking to leaders, guiding them, mentoring them. And the first thing he would ask is, how do you put on the lights when you walk into the office or the factory? And he was putting on the lights. He was inspiring people. He made them come alive because he cared about them deeply, not only about profit and results and the likes. He had tremendous success in this way. And he was valued, he was honored. And likewise, that was the mutuality. Putting on the lights. And that's inspirational. And the word inspire literally means to breathe life into, to bring something to life. And how do we bring this organization, this new human-centric organization to life? How do we switch on the lights for everybody every day and they themselves? Are we empowering them to do that? Or is it this type of picture that we still have when we think in terms of leadership, which has nothing to do with rulership or the best this or the best that? Or being on the top, so like climbing the ladder to be at the top. It has nothing to do with that. We will discover a little bit more about that later. So I would like to ask you, what in this moment lights you up about leadership, about intelligence? 42 intelligences at least, 37 senses and sensibilities. That's incredible. And guess what? We don't have to go and study for them at any university or college or other institution. It's all in this organization that we call the body. Body, mind, heart, soul. So what lights you up in terms of leadership intelligence, the two together? or the possibility of that, whatever that could mean or represent. What lights you up in terms of the new era organization, of a new way of working together, a new way of organizing ourselves together? And what lights you up in terms of a human-centric organization in this incredible world of ours, where we have such incredible advances in technology and communications and science and the likes? What lights you up about that? What inspires you? What is it that wants you to breathe life into what this new era organization that's busy emerging? And how to actually practically anchor it in the world so it can root and grow and flow into the world. So thank you for tuning into that for a moment and just relax again. And our breath is always a reminder of inspiration, the breath of life, that power, that incredible power that we have, which make us autonomous, the ability to choose for ourselves, power of choice, on how we want to approach every single moment and every single experience, whether it's expected or unexpected. Now, much is happening in our world, yes, and we are standing on this recipe of change. And when we're in such a period, it's always good to take a step back and to take a pause and to just see what's really happening, really sense into it before we make decisions on which direction we want to take. And this change has been happening for quite a while. And such a transition can be traumatic, yes, but if we are prepared for it, we can't really plan much for it, but we can prepare for it. And our power lies in that too, the power of preparation. So that this human organism, this human-centric organization, in all its facets and structures in the outside world, can do that in an empowered way and not get caught off guard, like we were all caught off guard in 2020, because we didn't prepare for it, we couldn't predict it, it just happened. And we all had to respond to it in a specific way. But we are not new to these type of transitions. Think back of the agricultural era. Completely different way of organizing ourselves then from the 19th century with the industrial era, the factory. Completely new world opened up to us. Think of that for a moment. How it might have felt to suddenly do that transition, but we've done this before. If you were alive in the 1990s or 2000s, we've gone through with the coming of the internet, technology, communications, systems, all kinds of information systems and business systems and databases and operating systems and the likes, to be able to explore and harness this technology that was available to us suddenly. And to do things completely different. And we all need to take on different roles, perhaps, or learn different skills, or do things in a different way. Because technology was supposed to be of assistance to us, to make our lives easier, not more difficult, but it all depends on how we see these things. And whatever is busy emerging in our world right now, whether it's artificial intelligence, all the social things that's happening in terms of polarization, the injustices, the fear of the future, like the future of work, the future of humanity, the future of our beautiful planet, the future of leadership, diversity, inclusion, and equality. It doesn't matter what it is. But we've gone through these type of changes before, especially in a workplace environment, from a way we're organizing ourselves. And we always there's this talk about the new normal and post-pandemic and post-normal and all sorts of fourth industrial revolution. Doesn't matter what we call these things. But we've gone through these things before. That's the important part. That we don't have to go into fear of how we're going to actually respond to this and how we're going to actually harness these emerging patterns. And like birth, like for this body to come into being, a birth is messy, right? A normal birth. And there's birthing pains. And imagine that small channel in the birthing channel where the baby have to come through. And there's a lots of let go as well. There's a lots of release from the mother's side. That can be very painful. But look at the beautiful creature that came out of that process. Incredible. So if we just don't get attached to the trauma, to the perceived chaos that's happening around us, and to all this fear of uncertainty and lack and the likes, we can really tap into what's possible, what's busy emerging also, and we can align to that and embrace it and still actualize our visions, but maybe just in a different way, not in a linear way or the way we saw it up front that we planned for. But it's all possible because we've gone through this before. And look at social media, how it transforms the way we communicate to each other and connect to others. And the impact it also had in the workplace. And suddenly our world here expanded to the adjacent world and the world beyond through all of that. And we had no control over that. And the interesting thing about control, industrial era type thinking is, control and management, is that when you control people too much or any situation too much, you break the flow, the natural flow of life itself and of that process and of that cycle. We break it. We cannot control nature, can we? We cannot control the cycles of nature, summer, winter, autumn, and spring. It just happened in that way. We can't control it. But if we did try to do summery stuff in winter, we might fail dismally. So why do we do it in our organizations? Why we try to control a process that's not linear, that's actually multidimensional and have so many different facets, to try to control it in a linear way. And then what do? The result is burnout, stress, pressure, uncertainty, overwhelm, which is not good for any of us, especially not what we are trying to achieve, or what we are trying to, the intentions that we're trying to manifest and the goals that we're trying to achieve. It doesn't help us at all. It breaks that flow. That control is not healthy. That type of authority, that type of authoritarian leadership, it steals people's autonomy. And then they go into victim mode. And then that doesn't help us at all. No matter what type of KPIs we have and the likes, it doesn't help us at all. No matter what type of rewards we tease people with, it will have no impact. Because inside, these people are very unhappy. We see that in the world. If we just look in the business world in terms of wellness, it is a big topic these days. Why? Because we can no longer go on like we did. But yes, we've done this before, so we don't have to fear anything. Because we have lots of intelligence available to us. And there's something about us humans that's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's it's like a magnetic force. There's this chemistry and there's entrainment, which is also one of the biggest organizing forces in the universe. It's like gravity, we cannot escape it. It pulls people together in all sorts of combinations and structures and systems to do things together, to work together, to share our gifts and talents together, to co-create, be part of something much bigger than ourselves. It's human. It's part of our human-centricness. No, humanness, the easiness. And it's an attraction force. There's lots of allurement in it if it's in the right conditions. If we allow these forms, these structures, to be mirrors of what we will see in nature, for example. Now, yes, in the workplace, in our formal organizations, in the way we work together, there are lots of dilemmas, yes. So many fear-based and panic-based decisions we saw in the last few months. Would you have imagined the Great Resignation in so many industries 10 years ago? Not at all. Just think about voluntary unemployment. It was not a thing. People were looking for jobs. Unemployment still in so many parts of the world, still today, is a massive dilemma. But voluntary, because they were not willing to work in those conditions anymore, in those circumstances. And it created lots of skills shortage besides the pandemic that happened, that impacted everything. Yes, all these things are happening. People fearing the metaverse and AR and VR in the workplace and machine learning and the likes. But there are also good things happening. You suddenly realize that time management is no longer really relevant. It's context management, because from a social justice perspective and a social equality perspective, we discovered these inequalities because of what happened during the pandemic, that certain people didn't have access and resources that they could work from home, or their positions didn't allow them to do that. They were in the front. And it exhausted them. And think of getting fired on Zoom. That's really bad, isn't it? But yet, through all of this, depends on how we see this. And there are good things happening, like countries that makes decisions that your boss cannot text you after hours. That's wonderful. The way people organize themselves suddenly, that before, in the traditional way, it was all formal. Now it's informal, where they access multiple strategies through working with people from all over the world in a new type of structure. And yes, we can see all these things happening as chaos, uncertainty, and the likes, and ambiguity and the likes, volatility and the likes. But like a storm in a teacup, right? Because this teacup, the organization, can no longer hold the storm that's busy happening, right? But after a storm, there's always a rainbow, or mostly. And what is happening in this teacup, there's a wave created because of this turbulence. It's a wave created. And we can either get drowned by the wave, or we can decide to ride that wave of this busy emerging organization, like in the 1990s and 2000s, to adopt to information systems, to embrace business systems and the likes, and technology. And like we did here in the new century with communications and mobile technology and the likes. But it's part of a bigger wave, and we can either get drowned, or we can ride that wave, or prepare ourselves at least to begin to surf that wave with ease and grace, and not so much fear and distraction and lack-based decisions. So it all depends on how we see it. Again, paradoxical thinking invited. So welcome here to this new era, human-centric organization, in that structure externally of what that can possibly be like. Now we just need to look at nature. So many wise monks like Albert Einstein, and there's a flight going over, it's very synchronistic, and you will soon notice why that's so synchronistic. Leonardo da Vinci said we must go and look at nature and had the dilemma. And life is a mystery. It's not something to be solved and explained like we try to do so much with a lot of our scientific explorations. But we can learn from nature when we establish this new era organization, and when we begin to cultivate it, the one that's human-centric, which is aligned with nature, with all our innovations being developed in aligned with nature and explored aligned with nature. I love the work of Peter Russell. And he says that for organisms that work, there's one particular quality that they all share. The many components naturally and spontaneously function together in harmony with the whole. And this harmonious interaction can be described as synergy, which comes from the Greek word synergos, which means work together. But guess what? This working together is not by coercion or restraint, and it's not even by deliberate effort. That functioning, the elements, they function together in ways that are spontaneously, mutually supportive. There's mutuality. There's mutually supportive relationships going on. And we just need to look at nature to notice that. It's undeniable in so many different ways. There's a symbiotic relationship between all these elements of nature. Think of the flower, the bee, the plant, the bird, and the butterfly. And they continue life. It's not from point A to point B. The bee doesn't come and extract the honey, the nectar from the flower to go make honey. And that's it. No, that cycle of life is continued. There's cross-pollination. As soon as the bee visits one flower and the next, he transfers life to the next. Same with the butterfly with their feet. Same with the bird with eating plants and vegetables and seeds. They distribute it all over. And life goes on, synergy. And there's another way we can look at synergy. The not so obvious, the uncommon, the unfamiliar, components working together to create something new. That's also synergy. Because all these components are very different. They each have a very different function in the bigger scheme of the ecosystem that we call nature. That we can be fed, actually. That we actually can be alive. symbiosis between trees, through their root system, how they feed each other. There's lots of nourishment in that. And there's a lot of cross-pollination in that. And Walt Disney was a very creative person, right? And he always saw himself as a little bee going from one studio to another and gathering pollen and also stimulating at the same time. Not only just taking, but also stimulating. And this was a mutuality between all their people too. And there are many leaders from the past that has done this, that believed in creating such spaces in the formal workspace. We see it lots also now in the informal workspace, like the co-working spaces, where entrepreneurs work together, professionals from different industries, different facets of life, and they cross-pollinate each other, they stimulate each other. That's life, not a point A, B, internally focused organization, because we do impact everyone, everything around ourselves. Let me give you an example, just to think about it differently. Say, for example, you had a clothing factory, and I am a consumer, so to speak, and I go and buy this dress. Like maybe buy it online even. It may even expand this perspective of what's really happening. If I didn't go and check out this organization who creates these beautiful clothes, I wouldn't even become aware that some of them, there's child labor involved. The people are living in horrific environments. They are treated horrifically, inhumane business practices. And guess what? I so easily can go and buy it online, and I receive it through a courier, the distribution system. And I don't even know how those people in that distribution system is treated either. But I'm happy. I bought it online quickly, instantaneously. Decision that I made to buy it because I like it. But that manufacturing company manufacturing this clothes, those conditions the people live in, the way they impact the earth, whatever they do, it's not necessarily visible to me, but I can go and explore it. I can go and research it. It's important for us to look at the bigger picture, not just for this moment, live here right now, because everything we do, think, say, and all the decisions we make impact everybody else in some way, and our beautiful planet. So we have to begin to think differently about our organizations and the internal well-being of everybody as well, besides how we affect and impact everything outside of ourselves. It goes beyond just sustainability. It's about regeneration. And when we look at nature, we'll see why that's permanent, especially if we think in terms of profitability, shareholder value, and the likes. And the well-being of all our people, and the well-being of our planet. It's one whole complete picture. It's a full spectrum that we have to consider when we make our decisions. And we can no longer have excuses because technology, communications has allowed us to access all the information we need from an external point of view. Now we can really go and learn some and embrace some other principles too in terms of nature. And I love in Sweden, they call a business näringsliv, and it literally translates into nourishment for life. Now imagine everybody involved in this cycle. We talk about the supply chain and all that sort of change. Imagine every single individual, every single aspect of it, every single resource, the earth, everything that was involved to get it to us was nourished for life. Imagine that. We will not have so many unhappy people. We won't have so many unhealthy people. We won't have a planet that's depleted and resources that we are depleting, that we are actually extorting. Nourishment for life, every single one. Imagine the joy it will bring to people. But they won't think that they are not just used, just another. I've seen so many times working with leaders and executives that when you start to explore with them how they feel about their roles, is what? Almost 99% feel that they are just filling a gap. It's like there's a hole in the wall and I must put putty or something to close up that wall. That's how they feel. And that's terrifying. Because they don't even feel nourished. How do we expect the rest of our people to feel nourished? That's part of the community group, no matter the structure, the ecosystem, the organization, the institution. Nourishment for life for everybody. And we just need to look at nature to give us guidance there. to have that garden there in the middle, to sit on that bench and to enjoy nature and the sun and just the beauty of the flowers, the tranquility, is what needed to happen. It's a cycle, it's a life cycle, it's a process. It's not a point A to point B. The soil must be prepared. It must be fertile soil, right? And it must be toiled. Otherwise, that seed will not grow. It must be in the right conditions, in the right climate, for that seed to be able to begin to gestate and to grow, right? So, but we never do the preparation side. In a project, we start from point A, point to B, and we want to finish the thing off. We want to have the results, whatever that might entail. But there's not a lot of preparation. There's so many steps missing in the cycle. We don't ensure that the conditions and the environment is perfect. We also don't toil the soil. And why do we toil the soil? That fresh oxygen can come in. Remember, I inspire, breathe life into, bring about, breathing. There's no new, fresh oxygen there. We just want to use the same soil over and over and over again. No regeneration. And then we plant the seed. And we don't even look at what type of seed do we plant. Do we plant a seed that came out of fear, lack, or victimhood? Or is it a seed of possibility, of nourishment, of abundance, of fulfillment, personal fulfillment, not only from organizational point of view, of potential? Is it, what do we plant? Is it fear-based? Then we plant the seed. Guess what? Lots of things need to happen for that seed, and that seed will take different forms throughout the process. It does not stay the same. It grows, it expands, it takes on other forms. And in that seed's all the intelligence that it needs to go through this process to gestate, from conception to gestate into another form, root into the earth, burst through the hard soil towards the sun. That can be seen as painful and horrifying, right? If we think about it as humans. But we did that when we came to the birthing channel. We birthed through normal process. But even if we didn't, it's still part of who we are. We have that ability. And then the seed bursting through the soil towards the sun, becoming this plant to either bear fruit and vegetables, or become a tree, or become a flower. All the intelligence is already there in the beginning, and it really needs to be gestated throughout the process that can become this, but the conditions must be right. It needs rain so that it can take on another form and expand. It needs warm sun, a very healthy root space for the roots to grow into a root system, that there's foundation. And then that strength, that power, the power of life to burst through that soil up. The same happens with our new era organization. It needs all of this nourishment, nurturing. We need in our projects, we need in our assignments, we need everywhere, nurturing, nourishment, warmth, welcoming, appreciation. And then that seed can burst through the soil and it becomes this plant, it grows towards the sun, and it begins to bear the fruit. And we just want to harvest as fruit. We never ever sow more seeds. We just want to use the same plant. We want more of the same plant. How weird is that? There's no time for fallow, for the soil to rest. After we've harvested, the seasons change, right? Fall and for winter, that the soil can rest. And during fall, the leaves fall down and it becomes fertilizer. But there's no pause. We just go on and on and on. We just go on. Even if we go on a holiday, the so-called holiday, we take our laptops and phones and all our gear with us to continue the process. It's never ending or stop. But this soil needs to go into a space of fallow before we can prepare it again. But we don't go into that preparation part again, or the nourishment part. We simply just go into, you must perform and you must get to this from point A to point B. So why would humans do differently than nature? Because we are nature, we are part of nature, we're not separate from it. We can learn from this, nourishment for life. This is how nourishment works. This is how we can go and sit on that bench and enjoy the tranquility and the fertility of the soil and all the creativity that goes around it for this to happen. And another principle that we can use as a foundational point when we are exploring how to bring in this new organization into the world, or to help see how it's busy evolving, is Meraki. It's the concept of whatever we do it with soul. It's the core of creativity. And when we talk about creativity, it's not about being an artist. We are all creative every single moment of our lives. Since we get up in the morning from bed, so the way we dress, what we eat, the way we eat, our attitude, how we think, how we feel, everything is creative. What route we take, everything. Meraki, doing something with soul, coming alive, again, inspiration, coming alive, breathing life into. Imagine that. And all of these create flow, the flow of natural of life. I would like to invite you for a moment to think of a river. The origin in the mountain, high up in the mountain. And it flows towards the ocean, towards those waves we spoke about earlier. It becomes waves there. The ocean itself, it feeds the ocean. It knows where to go to. And yes, there's boundaries. Yes, there's boundaries. It has river banks. So there is direction, right? And yes, there's rapids in the river. There's obstacles, big rocks. It maybe make different, it make turns, take different directions, but it knows it's going to the ocean. And maybe there's waterfalls. But if you surrender to this river, this flow of this new organization, this new wave busy emerging in the world, if we surrender to, we lie back on that river and we allow ourselves to surrender to that flow, imagine what's possible. We will be able then to, with ease and grace, surf those waves when we reach the ocean. But it's not through control, coercion, or restraint that we get there. But we must follow the flow, so the control doesn't help us much. And there is that direction, there is that leadership of where it is. We know it's going to the ocean. But we don't have to run all the way from the origin towards the ocean to see, okay, are you now actually flowing to the ocean? It happens spontaneously, like synergy, like Sneringslift, like Meraki. It creates new life. Now, yes, in life we get unexpected visitors all the time. And it all depends on how we perceive life and how we look at life, right? Now, when it begins to rain, and there's a storm brewing, we pull out the umbrella. We don't want to get wet. We don't even think that that rain is nourishing. It nourishes the soil, it nourishes the plant, it nourishes us, that we can have water to drink. It's our source of water. That we catch up in dams. But we can either just think of it as a nuisance, we're going to get wet, or we're going to get stuck in the mud. And when there's a flood, oh goodness, what's going to happen to us? And in times of chaos, there's a Nigerian proverb that said that the wise build bridges and the fools build dams. And that's what we do. We want to keep for ourselves. And we saw it a lot in the last 2 years too, in the way some of the decisions were made. That we didn't realize the impact of our decisions on the bigger picture, on the bigger whole. And that so many other people were affected by it. Not only here, our little dam that we're trying to create. But there's another way of looking at this. Like, imagine you're in the desert and it's dry and there's no water. And you really want to get to an oasis. And the nourishing rain comes. Imagine how that feels. But even here, wherever you are, you're not in the desert. It starts raining. You don't see it as getting wet. You're seeing that you are being nourished by it. The earth is being nourished by it. The past soil is being nourished by it. And you are catching up this nourishment. You're turning the umbrella around and you can use it as a boat when there's a flood to move around in. You will not get stuck in the mud, because then you can also use it as a staff, you know, to get along. But we firstly go to where we're just going to get wet. This unexpected visitor. It's disturbing our lives, our goals, our plans. But we don't turning it around to see what is it that we can use. We immediately go to what's wrong, what's no longer working and no longer relevant. And we don't even focus at all on what is strong, what is available to us to use in this moment. What's exciting, what's life-giving, life-affirming, life-generating, that inspire, breathe life into. What's already working? What can we work with? Yes, and we will have to let go of lots, but the focus is not so much on that. The focus is what's busy working as a foundation that we can move forward. Now, I'd like to invite you to sit back and to really evoke in your imagination. And imagine you are here. I want to take you to a place in the world of the rainmaker. So sit back and relax and envision this with all your might. Now, in this rain environment where there's so much drought, we need rain, right? Climate change, all the things. Now, in ancient times, in some places still today, when a region was experiencing an extended drought, the locals would send for the rainmaker. Now, the rainmaker was a sorcerer whose unique gift was to influence local weather patterns and cause rainfall through magical means. Now, imagine this. There is this rainmaker, and it's usually an old man. And when he arrives in the village, he's offered everything that he needs. After all, the future lives of the villagers, their families, the children, their animals, the stock, the crops, all depended on his ability to make rain. Because without rain, the crops won't grow, they would have nothing to eat. And the rivers and dams won't fill either, and they would have nothing to drink. However, the rainmaker says that all that he needs is a hut to sleep in and to be left alone for a few days. Knowing that his every move is being monitored by these curious villagers, he begins to set up perhaps some strange-looking device, or is doing a series of offerings to the appropriate gods, whatever it might be. And some rainmakers simply just disappear into the hut and seems to be doing absolutely nothing. And after a few days, if the rainmaker is genuine, it will begin to rain. And the villagers will heap lots of praise upon him and his magic abilities and the miracle that he has, these magical powers, and his reputation grows. Because wherever he goes, he appears to be making rain. However, despite his far-reaching fame, our rainmaker has a secret only known to himself. He knows in truth that he has no special powers to make rain. He has no powers over the weather or nature. He holds the secret of being a rainmaker. And in another village that had been experiencing a drought for 5 years, many rainmakers were called, but they all failed dismally to make rain. And in the village's last attempt, they call upon this renowned rainmaker from far away. And when he arrives at the village, he sets up his tent and he disappears in it for 4 days. And on the 5th day, the rain starts to fall and it quenches the thirst of the sparse soil. And the people of the village asked the rainmaker how he had accomplished such a miracle, because the other rainmakers couldn't do it. But they were not genuine, see? And the rainmaker replied, I did absolutely nothing. Astounded by his explanation, they said to him, how can this be? After you came, 4 days later, the rain started. And the rainmaker simply smiled, because he held a secret about rainmaking. What is that? Attuned to nature. He was working with nature. Wherever he goes, he's working with nature. Why? In what way? He knows where it's about to rain, because he's so tuned into the environment and the environmental signals. He knows simply where it's going to rain. And so he's traveling closer towards that region. He's not making the rain himself. His magical power is he's working with the most positive energy available in any situation. And when we say most positive energy, it means the most life-affirming, most life-giving, most life-generating possibility in any situation. So he's working together with the environment. And isn't that what we need today with this new era organization emerging? That's human-centric, and with everything else, rainmakers, to be ready to respond to whatever is happening. It's not a special power. It's in this body organization that we have here. Body, mind, heart, spirit, soul. It's part of our human right. Right as in R-I-T-E. Not right. It's here in this journey called life. So that this can happen. That we don't perceive what's busy happening as a storm necessarily, or chaos, or even a disruption. It's just new life wanting to come forth, and we can be part of it or not. And then we will still struggle and suffer. And yes, what do we do? Maybe we have this intention, that this aspiration to bring in and establish and cultivate this new era organization in whatever form it wants to manifest. And there's no one shoe fits all. And still be part of this old world and create a sense of stability and coherence while that's happening. And when do we actually make that jump, that leap to the other one? And guess what? It doesn't need to be the big bang approach. It can be very systematically. We can make small adjustments, I can't even say the word, every single day. And it starts with us. It's not change from the outside in, it's change from the inside out. It begins with us and how we approach every situation. And then how do we create that sense of stability and coherence while this is happening? Because the dilemma is, if we focus too much on the past, we go into a space of dissonance, because that environment is no longer relevant. It's outdated, of using old ways of thinking and old mindsets and limited frames of references that's outdated. And we focus too much on the future. We create a sense of overwhelm and fear and worries and uncertainty. So it's important to stay present with both feet in both realities and making small adjustments every day, instead of thinking it must be a big bang. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And many organizations and leaders do that, introduce the new into their environments like that, but it doesn't need to be that. In nature, that transformation and transition from spring to summer doesn't just happen in one day. It's gradually. We begin to feel it in our bones that summer is coming. And then we feel like fall is coming, autumn, and then winter. We just feel it in our bones. So it gradually begins, and there we are. The one doesn't have to fight for the other one to come into being. Now, a wise man, Seneca, he was a philosopher, said that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And when we're in such a transition phase of this new era busy emerging of how we organize ourselves, preparation is key to it, because we can't plan at all, especially not in a long-term perspective. There's 5-year plans no longer stick. 5-year visions no longer stick. Things change too rapidly, and we need to adapt to that. Our adaptive intelligence is incredibly important at this moment in time. But preparation helps us to embrace and harness those opportunities that's emerging along the way. And that's why we want to tap into our leadership intelligence and to look at leadership maybe in a few different perspectives before we even embark on exploring our leadership intelligence indicators. It was really magic for me, again, working with the most positive energy available in the moment and synchronicity, when I noticed that LI, Li, leadership is abbreviated as Li, Li. And in Chinese, Li means distance, and it's 0.5 kilometers or 0.3 miles. And in Chinese, it also relates back to a Confucius concept. Confucius was a philosopher, a very wise man at the time. And the concept relates to Li, in that sense, relates to what they call the first sense, to show people how to behave. It was all about the proper behavior, the proper conduct, but it also was an organizing principle, especially in the new Confucius era. But organizing principle, how we organize ourselves, and how we then conduct us. And they spoke about it like in this way of, it's the underlying order of nature that's reflected in showing others the way that they should follow and how they should conduct themselves. And my dear friend Nasrin, who also attended the live workshop, she shared the Arabic version of the meaning of it. Li is somebody gives something to somebody else that they have. Isn't leadership to empower others to be who they can possibly be, their potential, to live their potential, to empower them to be their true selves, not a victim or the likes. Someone who can think for themselves independently, who has autonomy, who can make decisions by themselves, who live out their sovereignty. So it's really interesting if we look at these two different meanings from it, from those perspectives. Li. And it also as a name means powerful, pretty, by the way. So proper conduct. But what does that mean even? But we don't want to go into that. That was just very interesting to notice that. And then to also go into the word lead and leadership. It seems that we had it all wrong, because the word lead comes from the Latin word laet, which means to navigate into the distant horizon. It has nothing to do with rulership, about dictatorship. It has nothing to do about managing. It has nothing to do about being the best this or the best that, or to get on the top. It's navigating into the distant horizon. It's about the trailblazer, the visionary, taking people somewhere, showing the way, direction. It takes people somewhere. That's leadership, because that's the word where it originates from. The way shower. And it's not about operating and controlling here, nothing at all. It's about direction, taking people somewhere. And to set the course for that to happen, set the tone for that to happen, to create the right environment for that seed, to the fertile soil and the conditions for that seed to be able to gestate and be nourished, that it can become this incredible plant bearing the fruits and allowing it then to rest. And if we look at authority, authority is not also having power over others. It's powerful, yes. It's directed, it's realized, yes. But it's also wise, it's receptive, it's kind, it's nurturing. It's that whole cycle of life. So there is this strong pull of this power of life itself. It's very powerful, that the power of life, our life force inside of us, and in every single organism that's living. It's an incredible power, but it is not there to overshadow others and to be dominant either. It's allowing autonomy. It's allowing people sovereignty, that they can make decisions for themselves. Because remember, in synergy, it was not coerced, it's not restrained, and it's not by deliberate effort. Energized effort happens when we allow people to be autonomous. It's incredible, because it's inspiration from the inside out. It's not change from the outside in. It's literally growth and expansion from the inside out, because the passion, the desire comes from within. And leaders in the last few decades have used technology and all this information systems and big data these days. And we hear warm data and the likes, data mining, to be able to see, to track people's behavior, their performance, our business performance. And we had tons and tons of reports and status reports and progress reports and analytics and charts and maps and graphs. And some of it's predictive, some of it's preventative, which is really good. But yes, these trends, because the world's adapt, there's so much change so rapidly, so quickly, we can't really rely much on them because a lot of it's based on what already happened, not what's going to happen. And to really look at what's going to happen, we really need to come to a space in between, so to speak, of between what was and what's still to come, that we can explore what is possible, to be real anticipatory, because we cannot predict so much, to have some thought and to be thought leaders and to be visionary. Because this takes us back, not necessarily forward. And that's when people feel that they've been exposed, when their information, for example, is shared with other people without their consent, which is a big thing these days. Things, data ethics, even social media ethics and the likes. Know that your information is used for advertising to make other people profitable. And you didn't have any say in that. But that's how we made decisions, business support, business intelligence, which is good. We still have to have that too, yes. It's not saying that's a bad thing. But to be able to navigate into the distant horizon, we need more. We need to use this human organism that's sitting here. I'd like to invite you just for a moment to sense into the business, the workplace, the business world, whether it's formal or informal, whether it's from an entrepreneurial point of view or from a formal organization point of view. There is much that we spend so much attention on in our focus. Things that's not living, things that's not like that picture at the bottom of something growing. Think of a financial statement. It's an abstract thing. Think of a proposal even. Think of an income statement. Think of contracts, agreements, presentations, tenders, and in the entrepreneurial world, pitches, unicorns, the way we all, people organize themselves, collabs. There's lots of progress there, yes, the way people begin to organize themselves together, right? But they still focus, even as a unicorn, or even when people work together in a co-working space or a co-creative space, they still focus on things like project plans, financial statements, the balance sheet, income statement, cash flow, war rooms in terms of projects, and guess what, you're going to get wars, not flow. But these things are not alive because what have we taken out of them? The individual, the people. That's why so many people are part of the Great Resignation, of the grey wave, where we lose so much knowledge and wisdom and expertise and experience. And the younger people don't want to fulfill those roles because they're looking for meaning and purpose and to make the world a better place. And they want to make a difference. They're not there for functions and roles. They want to act beyond functions, roles, and labels and stereotyping. But we still, and that's so sad because we already start organizing ourselves in different ways, but we still use the things that we used in the old, the traditional way of looking at the organization. That's busy fading away. It's no longer relevant. It's no longer working. That's why we have the Great Resignation and the likes, and voluntary unemployment. So we really need to look at all of this in a very different new way of this, even the business practices and tools we use to help us to organize ourselves in this way, in a very practical, from a very practical point of view. So it is time that we question these things, and that we are opening ourselves up to something else that's busy emerging, because these things were not there 300 years ago, but they are here right now. Yes, but we need something more. We need something different right now to be able to organize ourselves in new ways. That's human-centric. It's not to say that those things are bad, but they are outdated. They have gone past their shelf day. They've gone past that. And we really need to take time to really explore what else is then possible to replace that for what's busy happening in our world right now. And to create a stable foundation for this, and some stability and cohesion for this to be able to emerge properly, that it's rooted and anchored. And yes, we have to take the bigger picture point of view. We have to go and stand on top of the building when we explore this. At the bottom of the building, we can't see it. And if we're inside the building, we can't see anything else. And in each level, we'll see something different, right? We have a different view of what we are able to see. And the filters that we look through and the lenses that we look through, we need to clean them and look at through new ones as well, for this to be able to create this new structure that has strong foundations, Meraki, Neringsliv, synergy, flow. To give some examples that we can play with. Now, when we make such a paradigm shift from that, the old way, the traditional way of working, like we had to do from the agriculture to the industrial era, it's important to also notice what it is that in this paradigm shift, we'll need maps. We humans are incredible creatures. We need global positioning systems on our phones and in our cars and everywhere when we want to go somewhere. We are not connected to anything ourselves anymore, to navigate like through the stars like the ancients did. We no longer do that, but we think we're very sophisticated with all our tools and technology, and they're wonderful, yes, but they rob us from something that's very important, our own receptivity, our own intuition, and us tapping into the signals from the environment. But we need a map, so to speak, to be navigating, right? We had map books before technology. But it's only a representation of something that's not, but it is there to help us, but it's not the landscape. The curriculum is not the landscape of what we're busy learning. Likewise, the menu is not the meal. And if I was showing you a picture of food and you're very hungry right now, and you've been hungry for lots of days, it wouldn't feed you. You have to eat it yourself. You have to be here physically with you, right? And we are deprived in our current world because of this experiential side. There's lots of concepts going around, but the experiential side is not there. In the right environment for it's to happen is not there. So we are busy plotting new maps. When we explore the emerging patterns and when we explore the indicators that can guide us along the way to explore those emerging patterns, that we can create a landscape and co-create it and harness it and leveraging everything, all the opportunities that's coming from that when we begin to see what this new landscape will actually look like. That we can still have a sense of stability, rootedness, like that seed in the soil for it to burst forth. So I'd like to invite you now just to move your body a little bit. We've been together for quite a while. And just notice what it feels like to rock the boat. So rock your body a little bit. What does it feel to rock the boat, hey? From the old way of doing things to perhaps invitation to explore a new way of doing things. Even if it's just a new way of thinking, of filters, cleaning our own filters of our mind and looking at through different lenses, just rocking the boat and swinging a little bit. Just notice what that feels like. Swing and to rock the boat. And guess what? Rocking the boat creates movement, doesn't it? It creates movement. It's not stagnant. And just rest. And now, make a shape of your body. When aren't we shaping this new form, this new structure, this new organization together that's human-centric? What does it feel like to create forms, shapes with our own body? How does that feel to you while you're sitting there? You can even stand up if you wish to. And rest. And now, imagine you are a little bit drunk. So you are completely surrendering. You're walking like this. There's no control. Complete surrender. It's free. It's flowing. You're just going. You're really surrendering to the moment. And rest. And now imagine you're a fish in the water and you're suspended on the water, in the water, like a fish, floating there. Or an eagle gliding on an air current, suspended on the air current. Seeing the bigger picture from above, rising above everything that's happening at the bottom, the turbulence, to see the bigger picture of what's busy emerging, what's busy unfolding. Gliding through the sky, effortlessly. Effortless taking action by looking at what's happening, and rest. And now imagine you're a sumo wrestler. So you are going to thrust, so you're pushing somebody away. Imagine that power. How does that feel? Put voice to it. Thrusting. And which one feels most nourishing to you in this moment? Makes you most alive? Shaping. There's no right and wrongs. Just in this moment. Shaping. Rocking the boat and swinging. Thrusting. Hanging. Or completely surrendering like the drum. As we embark on our journey together to explore our leadership intelligence indicators. And this is one perspective on them. And we do not share our live workshop, which we did during the conference. We never record that because we've realized in the last since 2013, we've been working online already with organizations and also in the entrepreneurial world. And we've discovered that professionals specifically are very hesitant to really share from the heart how they really feel and to really go with something, to explore something new perhaps, and look at things in a new perspective and to share and have a conversation about that too when it's recorded, because their reputation, and they fear for their reputation, but they also fear for how other people will perceive them in the organization when this is published globally, openly with the world and shared with the world in the way that it's done. And we will be, during our journey, share some of our experiences that we have had in that live workshop. But for this journey, sit back and relax, because you're on that side and you're most probably watching this after the effect, after the conference. And if you are ready, we're going to embark on our journey. We're going to play with some of those indicators that we played with during the live workshop. So welcome here on flight AAA, 8. And 8 is a number of regeneration. It's also a number of balance, which is asked for so much these days, our work-life balance. It's also the number of power and the number of abundance and prosperity. So no matter how we look at it, welcome here on flight AAA. And we are embarking here from the here and now in this present moment, and we're taking off to setting the tone into the distant horizon. And we're going to leave this harbor. We're going to depart from this airport from the here and now, and we're going to go into the sky, right? When we take off on a flight. So we're disconnecting a little bit of the gravity as we know it and our environment as we know it. And when we go on holiday, there's that excitement. We're going to a new place. We're going to visit new people. We're going to see new places. We're going to engage with new cultures. We're going to eat different food. And people behave differently. They even talk differently. They talk different languages. So we're embarking on this journey. We're opening ourselves up to all of that. And there's lots of excitement in that. It's an adventure, isn't it? We have no idea who we're going to meet along the way. So we're just open-hearted and open-minded and curious about what's going to happen. So welcome here on our flight. And we're taking off from the Come and See airport. And you'll see there are 8 destinations, 8 runways there. You can choose your runway right now. We're going to explore and experiment now together in terms of our leadership intelligence indicators and emerging patterns in relation to the number that you are choosing. So choose one of them. Take time. There's no rush. Where do you would like to embark upon 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you're going to use that number for the rest of our time together. I've chosen number 3. And during our live workshop, people chose number 3, number 4, number 6, and number 8. And if you did choose one of the others, don't worry about it. If you want to explore it together with me after this, watching this, you're most welcome to connect with me via my email, which I'll share at the end. If you want to have an half an hour session where we explore this together in this way, in a live environment. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. And here we go. We are taking off. So welcome here to this exploration, this part of it. And we start on a blank page, so to speak. We don't want to fill our experience already with all our experiences from the past. We're really curious. We are really the trailblazer, the pioneer. We want to go see what is out there. And when we explore these indicators, have in mind, what is the type of person, what would the type of person be like who you would want to have next to you when you embark on a journey into the unknown, like into the wilderness. Say you go into the Amazon, into the jungle. What type of individual, how must they think, feel, relate, see life? How must they behave? How must they respond to the unexpected and the unknown? How prepared are they? What must they be like? Just keep that in mind, that type of companion you would like on such a journey. Because that's what our people want when we go into the unknown, into this new era organization that's emerging, approaching all these unknown things, unknown visitors that's happening, the unexpected visitors, the distractions, everything that's happening that we didn't plan for. What type of companion would you like to have? And we are companions to them. Every single person in our sphere of connection, in our sphere of impact that we have. What type of person would you like with you? But we're going to explore now ourselves. So the focus is inward. Now, in our leadership intelligence indicators, we've been preparing and assisting organizations to prepare for what is to emerge and what's busy happening around themselves in any moment with these 8 indicators. So we were making them ready to respond to whatever is happening. And we're going to take it a step further on setting the tone for this new emerging patterns that's busy emerging, and to set that patterns into our organizations and include it and to gently make adjustments every single day or week or month whenever we feel it's necessary and appropriate. So we're going to focus on those parts, but we're starting with the indicator. And the Lee workshop is actually a 3-day retreat or workshop. There's so much to this. I can speak about this for hours, but we're really just going to have an introduction to them very quickly. And I'll use the ones that we used in the live workshop as an example. And you're most welcome to reach out to me if you want to explore the others afterwards. And through these, all of them, there is a map emerging as well, that we can see the experiential landscape and also the impact landscape, how it affects our organization, but also the bigger ecosystem, the bigger ecosphere, so to speak. Now, in our live workshop, we explored number 3. Some of us were embarking, and we went to destination number 3, which is an incredible one that's so prominent and so relevant today, of orchestrating coherence in this sudden virtual hybrid physical workplace. Orchestrating coherence and creating a sense of belonging while this is all happening. And yet context management is massive. To begin to realize that the context with which in our people, wherever they come from, now is right in the center of our organizations. Before, they need to comply with what we are doing in our office, in our building, in our factory. But in the virtual workplace, that's no longer relevant. And their contexts have changed. All of our context has changed. All of it have changed. So the indicator here is our human ability to connect and relate. Is how we feel. And it's through feeling that we discover what need of us has been taken care of. It's not through thinking. It's through feeling, how we feel about something. But it is our ability to connect and relate. It goes back to synergy. Our Margaret Meaton spoke about the way we organize ourselves from a system perspective. This organizing principle of entrainment, of attraction, of allurement, of bringing people together to do something together. Hence, coherence orchestrating is so important. But how do we do that? And the interesting part is, through the last 10 years, when we shared these type of interventions and explorations with leaders and organizations and executives, is that it depends on number 1. And number 1 is the intent with what we begin something. it's a lot more than our vision and mission in the way we used to speak about in our strategies. It's our reason for being. It's our life philosophy of every single component part, human being that's part of the organization. Then their life views, their world views, the way they think, all as well. So number 2 is also relevant. But in number 3, it is how these parts work together, the coherence that's created through them. And the emerging pattern comes out through an intervention which we call the coherence profiling. And there we work with at least 25 filters and ways, point of views, and lenses to be able to see how people in one team or in a group, in a community, or in a group, or the total organization, or a division, or an industry work together. What is it that really makes them this allurement happen? And what is to the detriment of that becomes clear here. So we've got opportunities to develop ourselves, to improve ourselves. And at the same time, so there's also generative action coming out of it. Generative action means it's something that can grow. It's not a point A to point B. It's growing in all different directions and on multiple dimensions, all at the same time, without deliberate action, effort. It's not effort. It is Meraki. It's doing with soul when we begin to understand these things. We begin to understand why people act in a meeting in the way they do, where they're really coming from. Because our perspective of them is so limited. And if they have the ability to share Meraki, to be in flow, not controlled, and work in a synergistic way, magic happens. And when magic happens, we work together with all the forces of nature, with the most positive opportunity in any situation. That's life affirming, that's life giving, that's life generating. So it continues, it grows, it's nourishing. So number 3, there is so much wisdom, like in all the others. To give you an example, in number 2, we really play with full spectrum, whole system thinking, and many other types of thinking, like quantum thinking, the likes, and creative thinking, critical thinking considerations. And the pattern that emerges through that is what we call the awareness maturity pattern. And there's an awareness maturity model that comes out of that, that we can go and look at, and that we can continuously adapt and align with and reorientate ourselves against. And where our adaptive intelligence plays a lot too. The other one that we played with, which obviously I myself is really passionate about, because we've been doing these type of interventions in the last five years, both in the entrepreneurial network ecosystem environment, as well as formal organizations and institutions, is sense and response. We have 37 senses that we can tap into. Yes, the way we respond is up to us, and we need sometimes to take a fresh approach to re-look at how we respond to things, just to take a step back and take that pause and to regroup ourselves. But we're also sensing into what's busy emerging, and we are able to ride that wave and to surf on it, and not struggle so much and get drowned by it. And we are able to make positive meaning with what's busy happening. And at the same time, create a sense of stability, but also to create a larger context to operate within and from. And from that contextual view also, we can start to begin to take generative inspired action, action that breathes life into things, that make the things come alive. That's where Meraki comes in again and again, and synergy for that matter. And it's deeply inspiring, it's deeply stimulating, it's stimulating parts of ourselves. And we always apply all the others in the same process that's relevant to the others. But in this one, we focus on the specific one to sense make and to sense shift. Because we don't want just a change, we want a shift, we want breakthrough into a new one. That can happen, for that seed to be able to burst through the soil. So the right conditions, and we tune into our environment, and we grasp context very quickly. We're able to learn to grasp context. It's a skill we need right now. It's not something that we can take all the time in the world to do, because things happen too much. This is an incredible one to participate in and to contribute to and to explore and to experiment with. And we also played with number 6, also close to my heart, because it's part of sustainability, it's part of impact and reach, it's part of not just stability, generativity. It's part of the whole system where we rise above to take a whole system picture again, once again, but for a different reason this time. In number 2, it's for to create, into what are we busy making? How are we doing that? Number 6 is our intention, our philosophy of what we track on, like I said, with the dress. What do I impact with this? Who is impacted by this? Not only as the one creating it, but also the one consuming it, the one using it. Whole system impact and contribution. Here, we are looking at our impact patterns, and we have an impact map. We can track everything on here. We have power notes there that we can see. Our human and leadership intelligence comes through strongly here. That we have choice points, decision points that emerges for us naturally to know, whoa, we're on the wrong path here. We need to question a few things again. We need to review, we need to take a pause. Because maybe we had all the best intentions, but suddenly we realize this is not the way to go, in the way we're doing it. We have power nodes on those maps. Strong points, that we building on what's strong, not what's wrong. To use that as a foundation. That which is energizing, that which is life-giving, that which is exciting, that which creates a sense of morality. If you're interested in the SDGs, in ESG, corporate social investment, corporate social responsibility and value, this is the one to broaden your perspective and to bring in new parameters into the world in terms of those that are not lack-based, not because we have to do it so that we can have this image in the world, that we take care of the planet and our people, but because it comes from the inside out, from the heart. Life-giving parameters, not based on those things so we really take a quantum leap here, quantum thinking, not the lack-based, the victim-based parameters, but the possibility-based ones, the abundance-based ones, where all can flourish. And where we innovate and live in complete harmony with nature and the universe for that matter. So we love that one. Number 4, I didn't mention we have a flow map that comes out of number 4 as well. And your organizations and your teams or your groups sense-making intelligence factors. It helps us, this is intelligence from the inside out, not from a system, it's from the inside out. It's incredibly powerful when people realize that this intelligence has been applied to make decisions, not just numbers and data. Number 8, another powerful one. And I love in our live workshop, our people here were quite surprised who chose this one, because some of them are project managers by heart. It's things that they don't really naturally think about, for example. And they were really surprised that they chose this destination to go to. It's always very wonderful, because later you'll see the connection. How incredible it is, how this is a learning journey, when we go through these interventions and these explorations together, and these experimentations, because we're experimenting with these things. We're creating an environment where we can experiment with these things, that we can slowly make those adjustments, so it's not a big bang shock on everybody. So number 8 is about expressing imprint. It's the language we use. We want to create this new era organization, but we still use the old language and the old narratives and articulate ourselves in the old ways. But it's also how we express ourselves in all the aspects of our lives, because it's not a silo-based thing. We don't have a personal life and a professional life and a social life and a political life and ecological life. It's all one. And what happened the last 2 years actually pushed us towards that. It's how we express ourselves on social media and everywhere, the type of verbiage we use, but also how we embody the brand. Is it true body authenticity and brand authenticity and integrity? Or is it we're just doing something for the show that people would think our organization is doing sustainability stuff? We are caring about the carbon imprint on the earth. We are caring about global warming and climate change. But it's just for the show. It's not really. The ESG stuff is just done for the show. It's not because it comes out of our people's hearts. Everyone it's not just the leadership who decides about this. It's everyone is living this out every day. And they are so, number one, that intent of coming together in this way and sharing our gifts and talents comes so from the heart. The Meraki is so much there that we embody this. Wherever we go, we are radiating it outwards. And it's also present in our leadership. It's not just talk, we walk the talk, we live our talk, so to speak. And it's every single part of that organism, that organization, not just a few people. And how that's possible to bring that into the organization as part of the process. You'll see it, all these indicators as part of being human. It's natural to us. Intent and begin, it's a decision. It's a desire. It's a dream, it's a vision. Number two, our awareness of being aware of how we impact everything around ourselves. Connect and relate, deeply human. How we sense and respond is human. How we engage and collaborate with others, it's human, we love doing it. How we impact and reach, we do it regardless of whether we even realize that. How we manifest and actualize, this is an incredible, wonderful one. Wellness and abundance generation. And our wellness and abundance generating map is enlightening, so to speak. Because here we begin to tap into spirals of manifestations, and guess what? Because we don't look in a linear way at accomplishing things anymore. That impact and reach, it's like a ripple in a pond. But when the shareholders see this, they get excited because suddenly they realize they've been looking at the financial statements and income balance sheet and the income statements and all those things. And it's completely not even logical to look at life like that, an organization. And whatever we're trying to put together here and whatever we want to share with the world. And every individual that's part of it also realize this is what it's really about. This is why I come to this place to do these incredible things together with other people. There's so much wisdom in these. That's why I say it's a full-time workshop. And each by itself is what we call a quest. And in terms of the indicators, in terms of emerging patterns, it's an intervention. The leap, it's an intervention. And the maps then comes out of that. And everybody's taking a specific role in that that's beyond their usual position, function, labels, and roles. And it excites them because that's how we can grow. And that's why people feel deeply satisfied and nourished and nurtured and content. There's a sense of fulfillment on a very different level because it's all connected in this bigger ecosystem of life. And when we go on a journey, we have luggage, right? We can bring back with us all this heavy luggage from the past, or we can bring this more inquisitive, welcoming luggage with us. Like in number 3, was so interesting that connect and relate. Imagine receiving at the entrance door, wherever you enter the airport, this welcome sign and this welcoming people. And when you land, somebody with your name on a chart and they're welcoming you. Welcome so-and-so. Relate and connect. Isn't that fascinating how it's the synchronicity between them? No, and it wasn't done deliberately like this when we prepared this. Number 4, where are you going? Sense making. Where are we going? What's busy happening? Number 6, are you healthy? Number 6 was the one about, to take you back, about impact and reach. Are you healthy? Is our ecosystem healthy? How are we impacting everything around us? Isn't that incredible? Not only the individual, everybody on this journey, the organization, the bigger community, the collective, the planet, everyone. Are you healthy? Number 8, enjoy your flight. Remember that was express an imprint, the imprint we make on the earth, the footprint we make on the earth through our presencing every day and for what we speak into the world. Enjoy your flight. I remember our excellent project manager was part of our live workshop. He said, He's never thought about this because he always thinks about the result, the something that we must achieve. He never thinks about the journey, that it's even enjoy the journey, enjoy the flight. It's not only about the outcome, it's about the process to get there and the experience to get there. It opened up his mind for that. That was wonderful. Now we're going to set the tone. The tone for creating that stability and that foundation and using our leadership intelligence indicators, but we're going to get a little bit of help. So we're going to bring it all together as well. To create that symphony, that orchestra, that melody, that new melody, that tone. And when we think about leadership, we automatically think about power, right? And it always takes me back to the word craft, because we're talking about bringing our talents and gifts and know-how and wisdom and knowledge together to either create a product or a service or an experience for people to experience. The product and the service will give them the experience. And these days we focus more on the experience in those other two, because we're going into a new era. Because it's much more about the experience than the things that's creating the experience. But if you look at the word craft, in German it's Kraft. It means power and strength. Imagine everybody has that ability to live their craft out every day. Isn't that magical? And we can look at craft and power in different ways. And our use of power is very important. We can either use it wisely or for bad stuff, right? It's like everything in life. And it's always wonderful to look at the power, what we call the power circle. Now, all of these aspects, we all have them inside of ourselves, and we most probably can do all of them, but it's not natural to us. It's not something that really come to life. It's not something that we really do with Meraki. It's something that really turns us on. It puts on that light when we do this, although we can do, most probably, if you're watching this, you can do all of them. But there's the specific one that really makes your heart beat, right? There's the idea creator, the visionary, comes up with an idea. And then there's the strategist that must break it down into high-level details so that it can come into being, but on a very high level. What's everything needed for the resources, the people, the processes, the systems, the technology, you name it, it's in there. Because I can see, the top ones can see the bigger picture, right? They look, that's what they care about, is the bigger picture, the full spectrum, so to speak. But then something else needs to happen. Somebody must break it down into detailed actions and the likes, and somebody wants to monitor it and in the old time manage it, and we need to plan for it to happen as well. So he's the planner manager type individual who loves doing that. And then there's somebody who wants to just do it. They want to make it, they want to create, they don't care about the bigger picture. They bottom ones need the detail. They need detail to work with to be able to do that, right? And they just care about that. They don't care about the big picture. They can't even see the big picture. They don't want to see the big picture. But it's important for us to give them a view of that, and to give them an experience of that. They can feel what it's like, even though they don't like doing it. And the interesting other part to this is a dilemma that it also creates, is that the idea creator and visionary and the doer loves freedom. They just want to do this thing. They want to see it come into being. They don't care about form and structure, how either the house and the what's. They just want to do it. They physically want to craft it into being, shape it into being. Whereas the strategist and the planner manager, they need form and structure to be able to cope and to work. They need that. It's essential to their well-being. And we have to cater for all of these from a power point of view. So why is use of power? So even in the smallest combination of people coming together to do something, whether it's a collab, a cooperation, a team, a group, community, a division, doesn't matter what we call these aspects where people come together, there must be, beyond labels, roles, and functions, there must be people who think like this and who behave like this in each of those combinations, those synergies. These components must be in there. People who has this sense of personal power. It's about personal power, not power over other people, because we don't even play on that field. It's power to other people, but this is personal power coming out. Now, I'd like to ask you just to take a moment to sense into the type of power that you believe is most natural to you, the type of power that you believe is most natural to you. Because we all, some people have the power of voice and speech. Others have the power of connection. They just create connection immediately. They draw people together immediately. There's the personal power of presence, the way we show up in the world. You know, there's these charismatic people. They have this power of presence. And they also just draw people like bees are drawn to the nectar of the flower. The power of creative attention. Power of position. Power of attentive noticing. Power of choice, which we all have. And decision making. Power of communication. Power of participation. Power of organizing, bringing people together. Power of placement. Power of awareness. They're just so tuned with everything. They're just so tuned with everything and everyone. Which one comes naturally to you? I will repeat them again. And this time around, listen to the word, the vibration of the word, and how you're responding to that vibration of the word. Power of position. Of attentive noticing. Creative attention. Connection. Presence. Choice. Communication. Organizing. Placement. Voice. Awareness. And just sit with that for a while. And if I didn't mention the one that you feel is your strength, it could be the power, the joy of living. It's also a power, the power of joy of living, the power of strength, the power of abundance. Simply just sit with that for a while. And power means we move from that place out into the world. So we use that aspect to move out into the world and to do whatever we are doing. So it's a being, it's a sense of being more than the doing itself. It's where we move from. People who have the power of voice, it's just the way they speak. They don't have to think about it. It's part of who they are. It's part of their beingness, their voice. People creating a symbiotic type relationship and sense of connection. Also, powerful ability. It's where they move from, and then it attracts people to them, then becomes a luring power. Now let's invite in the universe, wisdom of the universe. Now Brian Schwimm is a mathematical cosmologist, and his research and his life's work is about the powers of the universe that we have access to, because we are part of the universe. We are the universe itself. We are not separate from it. And when we begin to tap into these powers and apply them, when we co-create, establish, cultivate this new human-centric organization, and even playing with our leadership intelligence indicators and emerging patterns and maps, it's truly powerful to bring this in, right? It's like help from a friend. And the friend here is the entire universe. And Brian's life's work is based on, has come up with all these. It's incredible. So go back to your number that you chose. Now in our session, we chose number 3, number 4, number 6, and number 8. Our people chose those. And again, if you chose one of the other numbers, the reminder, you can connect with me afterwards. You're most welcome. Number 3, allurement. Can you see the synchronicity? This wasn't done deliberately like this. This came out like this in a synchronistic, symbiotic way. And number 3 was connect and relate. It was about coherence profile. It was about coherence orchestrating. It was about welcome at the entrance door. And here it's about allurement. And what is the power of the universe? The power of the universe allurement is the power of attraction. That nectar attracting the bees and the butterflies. And some birds too, like hummingbird. And it's about the universe's ability to bond and hold things together. Now remember this, when we look at number 6, cataclysm, how relevant both are at the same time. So it's not one goes into the other. They're all relevant and present every single moment in our aware, conscious lives, even in our dreams. Bonding and how things in the universe is held together. The power of attraction, allurement, chemistry. It's beyond just attraction. Alchemy. That's a topic on its own. That's incredible. But can you see the coherence orchestrator plays with this power of the universe every single day during the, and this role is beyond the normal labels, functions, and stereotyping. It's a role that plays over all the multi-dimensions of the organization. In whatever situation we find ourselves, whether it's formal or informal. Number 4, always also incredible. The power of emergence is the power of creativity. And in our sense making, a sense shifting, and when we explore our sense making intelligence, it's always about something that's outflowing from that is generative inspired action. There's a lot of creativity in it. We're going to space of conceptualizing, of contextualizing, of thinking very creatively, and then applying critical thinking after that. It's a very creative process, a very, very strong, in-depth, significant, meaningful process by itself. Power of emergence. It's about the power of creativity, how the universe transcends itself. It forever creates more stars, and more stars birth and die, and more stars come, which we'll see in Cataclysm too. But it's forever creative, new forms emerging, forever and ever. An incredible power to tap into, the power of creativity. And we'll be seeing in the next decade, we foresee this, we anticipate this. We're no longer going to speak about leadership because of all this influence, having more followers. We're going to speak about creatorship because we begin to realize more and more we create our reality. We create our experiences for our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences, the way we see life, our filters, every single thing, our decisions every day. Power of creativity, creatorship. And number 6, Cataclysm was connected to reach an impact. For that chick to come through the shell of the egg, something must break open, right? For an omelet to be made, more eggs must be broken open together to create an omelet, right? The egg must break for an omelet to be made. So the universe has this power of destruction. So we will see the shell of the egg must break for the chick to come out. The seed must burst through the soil. There's cataclysm happening there. The baby must come through the birth channel. That release must happen. We can see this destruction, but it's not, it's new life coming through. It's a powerful one, but we're afraid of it. But why does it need to happen in the first place? Because the one before that's homeostasis. For every new thing that comes into being, it must come into a state of equilibrium where it can now be sustained and maintained for a while. But guess what happened with us after the industrial era? We came into a state of homeostasis in the way we think about leadership and management and control. And it had to be broken up. We saw it in the last 2 years because we couldn't predict any longer. We couldn't plan any longer in the way we did before. So then it must be shaken up. The soil must break up. The shell must break. There's a new creature to come out, which we couldn't see before. Power of destruction is just as powerful needed as the power of creation, right? And we can see it as entropy or new entropy. I can't even pronounce that word properly. But it is to create out of the chaos, create order out of the chaos. Cataclysm, power of destruction, the universe's ability to break apart and to expand into other forms and directions. It's incredible. And then number 8, which was related to express and imprint, our footprint, and also our brand presence and embodiment, related to the message of and remember, sorry, I want to go back to number 4 quickly. I forgot. At the airport, the luggage was, are you healthy? So it's breaking up that we can become healthy, right? Most probably won't always see it like that. Or that new life can emerge, or a new way of thinking, at least, a new paradigm. And then number 8, transmutation. And this is the one that we miss out, especially in our communities, in our workspaces, in our organizations, in our groups, that we want to expose change from the outside in. And that's not wrong or bad, but it's limiting. Why? Change must happen from the inside out. And the power of the universe, transmutation, is about the power of change of the self, of the individual. It's about change and growth on an individual level. It's needed before we actually can change the structure, the organization, the whole. Because it's simply against our true nature. We change from the inside out, from our mother's womb out into the world, not from the outside in. It doesn't really make sense on that, from that perspective, even if we look at the cycles, even if we look at the cycle of nature. It's from the inside out that seed comes and gestates and comes into this incredible plant and fruit and vegetable or flower. And it's the universe's ability to change on an individual level. And then come transformation, which is the power of change of the whole, the unfolding in new ways, which is related to community and intimacy. Not the way we see it from a romantic point of view, of truly seeing each other and how we together create this new structure, that change that then happens in the whole. That's a manifestation of the previous one. So you're most welcome. This is powerful work to play with in terms of our new emerging human-centric organization, and how we lead, and how we share the new with others, and how we invite them into that rather than imposing it on them. Because we can begin to, if we begin to play with this on an embodiment level, it's incredible what happens then. We've seen it over and over and over again. It's incredible what happens in teams, in groups, in communities, and in divisions, and in organizations and institutions. Now, if we cannot apply what we explored together in a practical way, it's not really useful, is it? And when we speak about practical implication, we always plan 4 levels. Personal value, symbolic meaning for humanity, so the fabric of society's well-being, global impact, and practical application. And you can choose, and we've done it in the live workshop also, an area of your own life. It could be in your organization, it could be on a personal level, where you're going to practically apply, firstly, the 4 principles we played with synergy in 2 ways: Meraki, nourishment for life, Nering's live, and flow, as well as our leadership indicator that you played with, the number that you played with, the luggage, the welcoming message, welcome, or are you healthy, where you're going, during the flight, together with your power that naturally comes to you, the power of connection, the power of presence, the power of voice, and then the power of the universe, as well as in that power circle, which one is more prominent for you, the idea creator, the strategist, the planner, manager, or the doer, as well as your number in terms of the powers of the universe. And then you can just put them on a piece of paper so that you have them there together to create context for yourself. And then we're going to go into a deeper level of ourselves on our personal power, but in a very different way, to help us give practical application to something that you want to work with, whether you want to introduce a new process to your team, or expose your leadership to it, your executives, or other way around, doesn't matter what it is, into your environment, into your community, even into your relationships. You can choose the context for it, and then we're going to play with a few other indicators to help us. That's archetypes within ourselves. It's personal power, but in a different way, that we can use this personal power to assist in either participating, contributing, or leading the emergence of this new era organization that's human-centric. The size of the coming together, or the way we organize ourselves, that's important. It's our intention around it, what we want to use it for. So we want to create a nest egg, right, for the future. And we want to create a safe environment for that chick to hatch, right? Otherwise, we'll get rotten or stolen by another animal or eaten by a human, right? But we want a safe nest for it. So for this new dawn, and birds in the morning wake us up, right? They announced the new dawn. The rooster with his crowing, he announced the new dawn. So we want to create, so we want to announce this new dawn by tapping into these aspects of ourselves. So I would like to invite you now to think completely outside the box. Take a piece of paper, blank piece of paper, and draw a hand with 8 fingers. And don't think about it, don't analyze it, simply draw it, freehand. A hand with 8 fingers. So I'll give you a little bit of time for that. And while you're doing that, getting a little bit of help from nature just to tune into this nest that we want to build. Now my help from nature doesn't want to work. So I'm going to go back to that one. There we go. See, I had to go back. I had to take a step back. Isn't that wonderful? For it to work, to come back into flow. So you have your 8 hand with 8 fingers. We really need to expand our perception, to go beyond our normal lenses and frames of references, to be really able to go on learning journeys, right? Because it's not what we know, it's what we're going to explore together. So here we're going to explore these powers within ourselves, these aspects, to assist us on the way. So in your first finger, write down leader, guide. Leader, guide. In your second one, write down business person. Business person. Number 3, goal setter. Number 3 is goal setter. Number 4, spiritual explorer. It's the one who's looking for meaning and purpose, wants to make the world a better place. Spiritual explorer, the one who asks existential questions like, why are we here? Who am I? The spiritual explorer, meaning and purpose. But write down spiritual explorer. Number 5, doer maker. Doer maker. Number 6, creator artist. Creator artist. Number 7, dreamer visionary. Dreamer visionary. Number 8, carer nurturer. Carer nurturer. So you've got your 8, right? Leader, guide, business person, goal setter, spiritual explorer, doer maker, creator artist, dreamer visionary, carer nurturer, 8 of them. So I would like to invite you, after you've explored this, or when you have 20 minutes available to yourself, to allow yourself to go on an exploration. Tune into each of these and step into that. You can even walk around a little bit in each one as that. You walk around as the leader guide. When you inquire into them, you're going to inquire to all of them. What that aspect in yourself say about this new era, human-centric organization. And each will have something different to tell you because they're looking for a different lens. That's part of you, that you have access to look into the world, that you have access to show up as into your environment, in your organization, in your ecosystem, in your network, in your group, in your community. It doesn't matter what the format is. It's you putting on those shoes, that hat, and you're looking through those glasses of that archetype. And you're going to sense into each one, and then you wait and tell them to tell you what do they say about this new era human-centric organization. And then you tap into each of them. So you take time to go into each one of them. You can, like I said, walk as that around, feel it, sense into that type of part of you, even if it's a part of you that you neglected or that you were not even ever using, that's latent within, because that part is latent within you. We have access to each of them. We simply have not developed them. And even the ones that you're resistant to, just allow yourself to go into it and play with it. And let them inform you, because isn't the we've informed the form through our intuition, tapping into them. And hear what they've got to say about the new era, human-centric organization. And that's for you. And remember, it is there to call out that chicken out of the egg, that it's ready to come out of the egg, that we can have that breakthrough, that shift for this new era organization to come into being. I would also like to invite you now to also maybe explore some of the other sessions during the conference, the Global Organizational Change Conference, and to also join some of the work groups, especially if you are curious and passionate about cultivating human-centric organizations. And the website's here, it's www. So you may ask, where to from here now? We've really just touched on these leadership intelligence indicators, and I spoke a little bit about the emerging patterns and the related maps that unfolds throughout the intervention and the discovery process. Yet there's so much to this body of wisdom, and this leadership intelligence workshop by itself is a 3-day, at least a 3-day retreat or workshop. And each indicator is a workshop by itself, what we call a quest by itself. And each leap is another intervention which have different facets to it. And there's no one shoe fits all, because we are all engaging from very different points of views and different experiences and different environments. And we've learned that in the last few decades, that we can't standardize these type of explorations together, because everybody's at a different point on their journey. And we took off from the here and now, and we explored a little bit setting by setting how we can set the tone. And we tapped into some of the powers of the universe to assist us. And we also have those 3 foundational principles of flow, meraki, doing something with soul, as well as näringsliv, nourishment for life, and synergy as foundations to take off from and to create this foundation for this new era emerging human-centric organization and a new way of organizing ourselves, depending on what our interest is. There are many ways to look at it and many ways to explore it. And there's always one thing that I'm reminded of, is the wisdom from David Sprangler. And he said that if we want to understand the flavor of wine, we must drink it, right? I can't just show you a picture of wine and then you know what it's like to drink wine. And likewise, he said that to understand the true nature and essence of the wine itself, we must become a winemaker. Yes, we must become winemakers. We must prepare the soil. We must make sure the soil is nourishing and fertile. Then we must take out all the weeds. We must plant the seeds. We must grow the grapes with care and love and attention. And then we must harvest them, and then we must stomp and dance upon them to press out the juice. And yet again, then we must drink it. And it must really nourish us, that we can really have a sensory extravaganza with it, to experience this in a full embodied, whole spectrum experience. And the same with this body of wisdom. There are many facets to it, so it all depends on what you are curious about and where you would like to explore, what really makes you curious at this moment and interested. You can explore the indicators, the patterns and the maps and different roles and archetypes and that emerges through it in the organization, how to introduce these, how to create an incubator for it. And we have got an incubator and accelerator. It's a space where we take people out of their current environments for a while. They come and explore. We explore then how to practically apply and experiment with them before we introduce them formally into the organization or into the team or into the group and community. There are many ways to do it. It's like the seeds. They must have fertile soil that's undisturbed, that they can gestate, that we can experiment with them, that they can incubate, And then we accelerate the process too through the emerging patterns and the maps that can help us guide the process, and that they can really take root and that they can anchor and that they can then flow into the organization. And we don't want to disturb the current flow in the organization, so it's always aligned to other initiatives and other projects, and we're taking that in consideration. It's always aligned also to the organization's intention, the organization's vision and mission, and the like. So it's not something that's separate from it. It's core, it's inherent, it's a thread. You can see it as part of a bigger web. It's one of those threads, part of the bigger web that the organization represents. So depending on whether you want to, like us have been doing in the last, especially in the last 10 years, preparing organizations and leaders and executives and individuals and entrepreneurs to really be ready to respond to whatever emerges, and to also take that leap to begin to set the tone for the coming decade or so, and the coming times. Or if you simply want to create a spark and you want to include these practices and ways that we are playing with, all the different aspects and tools and the maps and indicators and patterns, if you want to include that in your current business practices or in your current consulting practices, depends on what role you play and what really interests you and where you want to take this. It's a massive body of wisdom. It evolved over the last 3 years, and ourselves, we are your possibility and alignment partner and guide. So we are your companion. So we walk beside you, be your soundboard, help you sense make, help you grasp context very quickly, help you to be able to respond to whatever is happening and still create some sense of stability and coherence. That's our role, to catalyze creative thinking, other ways of seeing things, to look at things from different vantage points, to also consider the bigger picture, to consider whole system thinking and wholesomeness for everybody involved and well-being for everybody involved, the whole ecosystem, the bigger, larger ecosystem, not us only here, but the larger, broader part of reality and this beautiful planet that we are living on, and each individual's contribution and their participation as part of life itself. You are welcome to connect with us, to converse with us, to start discussions, to join us during our podcast on Google and on Spotify. It's called the Gateway to the Possible series, where we explore phenomena and aspects that's currently impacting us in the workplace and generally in life itself. You're also welcome to connect with us on Clubhouse. We have a Gateway to the Possible Club. We will also explore the possible and practical ways to then realize and actualize those, as well as we've got co-host a Clubhouse club together with Futocracy Network called the Futocracy Network, where we're also exploring this new era organization that is heart-centric specifically. You're also welcome to join some of our upcoming online flow and salons and master classes. We also do these in-house for organizations, within a team or within the division or in the complete organizational community, where it's really about that it's aligned with what you are currently going through and your dilemmas and your visions that you hold for the organization. So you're also welcome to connect with us for those, and you're welcome to connect with me at Hannelie@thepossibilitygap.com. Hannelie@thepossibilitygap.com. If you want to explore your leadership indicator that you're playing with, your power of the universe, together with the luggage message, together with these 4 core principles, you are most welcome to reach out to me. Or if you are curious what lies behind the others, and if you really want to get involved in the depth of this body of wisdom has evolved over the last 10 years, through introducing the new and other possibilities in many different capacities and ways across the globe, working with different organizations in different industries and different scenarios with leaders, executives, politicians, government officials, organizations and institutions, amongst which was as a management consultant at Deloitte Consulting in a senior position for 10 years in the late 1990s and early the first part of the 21st century, but specifically in the last 11 years of sharing new ways of thinking, being relating, and working together with organizations and leaders and executives through workshops and radio shows. We had incredible responses to our radio shows in the last decade, hosting leadership, innovation, embodied change, employee engagement and wellness, team dynamics, human and organizational potential realization workshops in many different ways to really inspire change from the inside out and to catalyze this new ways of thinking and doing and the likes. And to also catalyze being a bridge and a catalyst to share different perspectives and explore possibilities and how to practically bring them into being actually. So it's not only about the possibilities that we explore, but how to practically bring them into being and to integrate them into our current environments. That we can be like that chicken come out of to have that shift to sense make. And that's what we also have been doing a lot in the last 5 years. We've been sharing lots and lots of collective sense-making salons, explorations and learning journeys and workshops across the globe, online and physical. We were also exploring in depth we really dipped our feet into the entrepreneurial landscape and ecosystem development environment so that we can learn from how they are self-organizing themselves, self-leadership principles, and the global impact that a lot of the institutions that we are collaborating with and co-creating with, the global impact it has, the reach. We also dip deeply into digital, informational, and informal learning processes and ways how to do that, the world of open innovation, which we're deeply grateful for, platform development and economies, how to harness those, and how to gently introduce these capacities and possibilities and lessons learned through these learning journeys, to share that with leaders and executives in the traditional workplace and in an organization, and to introduce it to them gently. So innovation in leadership and management is really passion. Human and organizational potential realization, it's a personal passion, something that I studied in depth. The next level of organization, being and learning, has always been a passion, and the research we've done about this in the last 3 decades is incredible in different environments. But at the core, at the moment, it is to really assist and guide and help leaders and organizations and executives and their teams to be ready to respond to what is busy emerging, the unexpected, to grasp context very quickly, to make positive meaning of events, to work with magic, the most positive energy available in any scenario that's life-giving and life-generating and life-nourishing, and to create to create a sense of stability and coherence and inspire to bring things to life during these times of uncertainty and chaos, and to begin to set the tone through these emerging patterns by embracing some of these business practices that are not lack and fear-based, but which are possibility-based and abundance-based, to set the tone for the coming decades, and to do that gently by doing adjustments and inclusions of some of the practices gently into the process. We don't have to, like I said earlier, to do a big bang. And then people go into resistance and they freeze up. They go in, like our nervous systems do, they go into either fright, flight, or freeze. And guess what? We can't be in flow. And we want to stay in flow as far as possible, even when, in our experience, we've been able to do that through transitions that happened in the past. That's available to us. And if you are curious about a deep dive into LI, please connect with me. There are many different ways to also introduce into your teams, into your organizations, into your leadership, into your communities, into your groups, into your networks, through salons, through retreats, different ways of doing it. And we dip into this body of wisdom that has so much depth and has evolved. Everybody that has participated along this journey in the last 3 decades has contributed to what this body of wisdom is today. And we do that every day with anything we put our attention to, everything that we explore, everything that we're participating in, everything that we are contributing to. And from a formal point of view, this body of wisdom is so vast, like I mentioned, the incubator and the accelerator to help assist us to take this process and to really embrace it and to harness it and to also benefit from it through 8 quests and the 8 leaps, the interventions that has all the flow and impact maps and landscapes that comes out of it, that we can begin to organize ourselves for success in a very different new ways, organize our thoughts, sequence our actions in an informed way. And inform, so from a system point of view, we inform the system through our leadership intelligence, which at the base of itself has the human. So the human-centric part of this organizational new era is centered of it all already. because we're starting to tap into our own intelligences. And that applies to everybody. So whether you work in the formal business world or whether you're an entrepreneur or the informal business world, it doesn't matter what your role is and where you bring your contribution and you give some talents and insights and wisdom to the world. It doesn't matter, because you are contributing to it. And everybody that has connected with us and played with us and worked with us and experimented with us and allowed us to also introduce them to new ways of doing things. We've transformed certain industries in a comprehensive way by doing that. And we brought new life into them, and we're really deeply grateful for everybody who was willing to partake in it to get it to where it is today. We also have a synthesizer app that people who are joining on these quests and leaps and organizations and teams that they have access to. I have to mention that it is a co-creative, generative, evolutionary, unique approach. It grows and transforms all the time. It's aligned to other personal, individual, and organizational initiatives and strategies. And the beauty of it all is it opens us up to a new way of looking at the economy, at looking at money, at looking at profit, at looking at shareholder value and the likes. And shareholders and stakeholders love it when they discover how this evolves into a spiral of manifestations. And it's based on the cycles of nature. It's nourishing, it's not just extracting and consuming and the likes. It's not draining people, exhausting them, putting unrealistic demands on them and the likes. It's a completely different way of looking at how we organize ourselves for abundance and wellness. And everybody participating in this process, in the quests and in the leaps and in LI, even as a retreat or a salon, in whatever way, they are co-creating and they are becoming a part of an abundant spiral economy straight away. And if you're curious about that, you're also most welcome to connect with me. And that really transforms the landscape of how we contribute and participate and organize ourselves. And we are curious to also see in the future how this evolves, as this is generative and it's replenishing everyone and everything, our beautiful planet as well, along the way. So thank you so much for being here with me today and for your time, for being present to this for such a long time, for taking the time out, for your curiosity. And also when you participate, if you are willing to experiment with the archetypes we played with at the end, and with the powers of the universe and the leadership indicators and emerging patterns that we really just briefly mentioned, because it's such a body, the depth of the body of wisdom is so deep and so broad and so multidimensional, multifaceted. So thank you for that, and for your thoughts, your insights, your wisdom that will evolve from here and whatever it enables you to bring to the world. So thank you for that already, and for your invaluable contribution that you bring to your organization, to your community, to your network, to your team, to your group. Thank you so much for that. There is a South Sea island where the islanders don't have a word for thank you. They say, it is good. And we say, it is good. Thank you very much.